Hi, this is Handman. Today we're going to look at stock treasuries. Which companies have Bitcoin in their treasury and how are they doing? Is there some way that we can figure out which companies we might want to invest in? Here's our agenda for today. Let's look at how to participate without directly purchasing Bitcoin. How can I participate in the cryptocurrency revolution? The second thing we'll look at is what are the top 10 ways to do this? And the answer here is to purchase stocks. So let's look at the top 10 stocks that we might want to think about buying. And then let's look at their performance relative to Bitcoin itself and see if we can draw any conclusions. What if I want to purchase Bitcoin, but I'm not comfortable with a wallet and doing money transfers, going to an exchange and managing my own keys? If I'm not comfortable with all of that, is there another way for me to participate in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency revolution? Yes, there is. We're going to look at that in this video. The second thing is, even if I am comfortable with all of those items, I might want to diversify my holdings. I might not want everything in cryptocurrencies. Is there something else I can do? And of course, the answer is yes. The thing that you can do is have some correlation to Bitcoin through stocks. So let's take a look at that today. We're going to see what are the top 10 companies, stocks, equities, that have some exposure to Bitcoin, and will that allow me to participate? Full disclosure, I already have a position in 4 of the 10 stocks we're going to look at today. Stick around till the end of the video to find out which 4. So number 10 on our list in reverse order is RIOT blockchain. This is a mining company. Percentage of their treasury that is invested in Bitcoin is very small, 1.8%. Over $7 million they've spent so far, and they have 1,175 Bitcoin. Well, let's see how they're doing. The blue line is RIOT, so you can see they are doing better than if you just bought Bitcoin itself. And they somewhat seem to go up and down with the price of Bitcoin, which makes sense as they are a Bitcoin mining firm. Okay, let's move on to number 9 is VYGR Digital Limited. It's a Canadian company. They're a little more invested from their treasury. 35% of it is invested in Bitcoin. They have almost $8 million they've spent so far to give them 1,239 Bitcoin. And let's see how they're doing relative to Bitcoin itself. They're doing better, the blue line, they're doing better than if you just bought BTC itself. Somewhat related, they seem to go up with the price of Bitcoin and down a bit when Bitcoin goes down. And number 8 on our list is HUT, Canadian Bitcoin mining company, and it happens to also be number 8 on our list. Somewhat lucky for some Asian countries, number 8, it's both number 8 on the list and has 8 in their title. Anyway, they've got 21% of their treasury is invested in Bitcoin, giving them 3,233 Bitcoin, and again, almost $40 million. If we look at how they are doing, they are quite tied to the price of Bitcoin, as you can see, and they're doing better percentage-wise than Bitcoin. All these charts today are year-to-date. So pretty good, and it is tied, so this might be a way to get some correlation. Number 7 is a German company, Bitcoin Group. They have spent over $200 million. This is unaudited, giving them approximately 4,000 Bitcoin, we believe. They are doing worse than the price of Bitcoin, and it does not seem to be that related. Slightly moving with it, but not exactly. Number 6 on our list, GLXY Digital Holdings, another Canadian company. They've spent 7% of their treasury to accumulate Bitcoin. They have, again, unaudited, about 4,000 Bitcoin. Let's take a look at their chart. They were quite well correlated till around March. They actually released a Bitcoin ETF, linked to a video on that up top. And then also around April 20th, another little spike there, they released an Ethereum ETF. So again, sort of tied to the price of Bitcoin, but they are also doing better than if you just purchased Bitcoin directly. That's number 6. Let's move on to number 5 on our list is a new entry, Coinbase Global, US company. I don't really know the percentage, but again, it's reported they have spent about $263 million accumulating Bitcoin, and they have 4,847 Bitcoin. Their chart, it's only about a week or so old, but very tightly tied to the price of Bitcoin. So again, this might be a good way to get exposure to Bitcoin without buying BTC the old-fashioned way. That's number 5. Number 4, Marathon Digital Holdings. And as you can see here, they spent about 8% of their treasury on Bitcoin, and they have 5,263 Bitcoin so far. That has cost them $161 million. Let's see how this company does in relation to the price of Bitcoin. They are doing better than if you had just bought Bitcoin itself, and they seem to be somewhat related to the price of Bitcoin, going up when it goes up and down when it goes down. And now let's move to number 3 on our list, Square, which is a payments and cash application. Again, hardly any of their treasury has been spent on Bitcoin, 0.4%. They're not doing as well as if you had just bought Bitcoin itself. So if you're looking for exposure, in this case, you might as well have just bought Bitcoin. But the company itself is somewhat tied. Number 2 on our list is Tesla, which has been in the news a lot. As you can see, hardly any of their treasury is in Bitcoin, but they have spent $1.5 billion to accumulate Bitcoin. So they have about 48,000 BTC. And their stock price, the blue line, is not really related at all to the price of Bitcoin. And it's doing, their stock, believe it or not, is doing worse than Bitcoin. We've heard a lot about Tesla lately. So that was number 2. Number 1 on the list, in terms of how many BTC their treasury owns, 91,579. That is the most. And talk about going all in. 77% of their treasury is invested in Bitcoin. They have bought over $2 billion worth of BTC. And let's look at their chart. It's doing slightly worse than just buying Bitcoin itself, but it does seem fairly closely tied to the ups and downs of Bitcoin. But again, you would have done better by a little better by buying Bitcoin directly. Let's look at all of them all together. And of course, the law of averages, what does this tell us? Again, Bitcoin is the orange line, a little hard to see. 5 of our 10 have done better than Bitcoin. 5 of the 10 have done worse than Bitcoin. So what can we conclude from all of this? Well, the first thing we can conclude is that really the percentage of your treasury that's invested in Bitcoin is not proportional to your performance. The 2 largest companies that have the largest amount of their treasury in Bitcoin, MicroStrategy and VYGR, one has done worse than Bitcoin, one has done better than Bitcoin. Those that have invested more, who have bought more actual Bitcoin, the higher average cost base, they've actually underperformed. They've done worse than just buying Bitcoin. So we can't just look at the companies that have spent the most amount of money. That doesn't really help us here. And something interesting, all of the Canadian stocks in the list of 10 have done better than just purchasing Bitcoin directly. That's interesting. Now, again, a lot of them are either mining Bitcoin or they are really tied to a Bitcoin type of an application. So the takeaway from all of this is really, I'm hoping you can see that this basket just gives you something for you to investigate and do your own research, which companies are somewhat tied to the price of Bitcoin, because all 10 of them have some level of correlation, but not a high level. Again, the mining ones had a higher level, and the Canadian ones seem to have been tied and doing better than buying Bitcoin directly. So take a look at these, see which ones, if you want to diversify, whether you are holding a lot of cryptocurrency already or whether you're not comfortable buying Bitcoin directly, perhaps some of these stocks could give you a way to participate in the Bitcoin revolution without directly buying Bitcoin. The 4 stocks that I already had a position in are Coinbase, GLXY, Hut 8 Mining, and MicroStrategy. And of course, 2 of them are doing better than the price of Bitcoin, and 2 of them are doing worse than the price of Bitcoin. And law of averages, it all seems to work out. There's a link below in case you're interested in purchasing this t-shirt or other crypto-related swag. This is Handman saying, see you in the next video.